The Pope and Young Club wants to welcome you as we rally together to ensure our bow hunting opportunities for today and tomorrow. You've come to the podcast that believes in preserving, protecting, and promoting the passion for bow hunting. Join us as we strive to be the voice of today's bow hunter. This is the Pope and Young Podcast.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Pope and Young Podcast. Jason Roundsville here. I've got my co-host Dylan Ray with me, and we have some guests we're excited about. And joining us, some longtime corporate partners. We have with FeraDyne, we have John Syverson, and we have Teri Quinn, who's just off camera today. Teri, you want to just say a quick hi?
Hello.
That may be all we get, folks. Well, hey, you guys, welcome. Thank you for spending some time with us. We appreciate you. You have been great partners. I know you were some of the among the very first corporate partners that Pope and Young had. Everything that we've ever asked, you guys come through with flying colors. So we really appreciate you, and wanted to take this opportunity just to have a conversation and learn more about and let our folks know more about FeraDyne and what you guys are doing over there. I mean, I'd list the products you carry, but it's not that long of a show. So, John, welcome. Give us a little background. Tell us about you and FeraDyne.
So I've basically been in the outdoor industry, specifically the archery industry, my entire adult life. I went to school and I ended up graduating, and I was going to go to grad school. I was supposed to be a doctor, is what I was supposed to be, and I ended up getting a job opportunity. I'd worked at a retail store as an archery guy, and I'd see these sales reps come in all the time, and I thought, man, that'd be a really cool job, and I got an opportunity to be a sales rep back in 1998, 99, I think, and so I took that instead of going to grad school. I figured I can always go back to school. And so I took that job and worked out pretty well. I worked my way up through as a sales rep. And then in 2005, one of the companies that I represented, which was Field Logic, they were going to start a new broadhead company. And they wanted me to help them get this broadhead company off the ground. And so I came up here and quit being a sales rep, I guess, 2005. And then 2006 was the first year we launched Rage broadheads. And so I was part of Field Logic up until 2011. And we grew that Rage brand pretty substantially over the course of a few years there. And at that point, it was decided that we were going to carve the Rage brand out and sell it. And we sold it in 2011. And Rage was kind of always my baby. And so I decided to leave my partners at Field Logic and went on with the new endeavor, which at that point was called Rage Outdoors. And so when we became Rage Outdoors, we ended up, the goal when you work in a company that's private equity backed is to try to grow the company, right? To build it, to build more brands, and to build the overall revenue and the bottom line, and help improve the companies that you buy and do that stuff. And so we acquired the first company that we bought was Nocturnal in 2011. I think 12/31/2011 we took ownership of that brand, and we ended up buying a few more companies throughout the next couple of years. We bought Muzzy, bought True Fire, and we ended up, in fact, when we bought Muzzy, we were Rage Outdoors, but at that point we needed to change the name of the company for a few reasons, and we came up with the name FeraDyne. I wanted it to be called FeraDyne. FeraDyne, Fera is wild in Latin, and Dyne was short for dynamics. We were trying to call it Wild Dynamics, but there was too many trademark implications and things that we would get in trouble for, so we ended up coming up with this FeraDyne name. And our old CEO at the time, anything I would say, he would say we'd have to call it something out, whatever I'd say, he's like, all right, this Outdoors. And I'm like, we don't need to call it Outdoors. But long story short, it ended up being FeraDyne Outdoors. And so from that point, we ended up selling to another private equity group. And the first company that we acquired when we became under the new ownership was my old company, Field Logic. And so we bought Field Logic, and at that point we moved our company back up from, we were down in Georgia for a few years, and we moved it back up here, and now I'm sitting right back in the office where I kind of started all those years ago. And we bought a few companies since, and Carbon Express and Covert Cameras, and we bought several companies, Wacom, under this ownership, and yeah, so it's, we have a lot of different brands, and under the Field Logic brand alone, there's I think 10 brands under the Field Logic umbrella, and we continue to grow, and as an organization, we have 3 different facilities, one in Kentucky where our Covert brand is kind of housed, and then our main facility here in Superior, Wisconsin, where we have about, under this roof, there's 350 employees, I think, here, and then we've got another 30 or so down in Kentucky, and then we've got a couple satellite employees that work remotely, and we have another office in Bentonville, Arkansas as well. That there's a couple people that work there, but yeah, we just continue to grow, and we're always looking for different brands to buy and things to do to try to improve them, and that's kind of what we do. Is having been in the industry for as long as I have, I'm fairly close to a lot of these brands when we buy them, and so I'm not going to say I know every way to fix them, but I've seen them from afar, and it allows me to kind of watch what they've done and watch how they do things, and it helps to have new, fresh eyes look at these companies and put a different perspective on the companies and the brands, and what we can do to try to improve them, and when these brands become part of our umbrella, they get some added horsepower as well, especially when you think about retail sales, and we can simplify programs, and we can do different things that they can't do as an individual little company. But when they come under our umbrella, we can go into a Bass Pro Shops or whatever the case may be, and kind of utilize our power as a bigger company to help those companies grow in those places that they maybe didn't have a chance to grow. And the other benefit of it is I'm passionate about it because I've done it my whole life, and bringing that passion to it helps take the brand and help it become what it really should be. And I kind of take pride in knowing that I understand a lot about these companies before we even buy them, and the products that they have, and how we can improve them, and it helps us as a whole. And in our company, all the people that work for us, and I say guys because Teri's sitting here, it's all the people that work for us are all passionate as well, and really the only ones that aren't like avid hunters are our accountants, which is good because it keeps them in the office counting the beans while out doing the things that we like to do. But so yeah, it's a fun company, and there's good days, bad days, and like I tell everyone all the time, it's like when it's bad, it's really not that bad because we're still making cool stuff that really help people in their hunting, no matter if it's a target that we make that they shoot into, or a broadhead that we make that helps them harvest their animal quicker, or whatever the case may be. All these different things, it's work to us, but to them it's their passion, and they're it's what they do when they want to get away from it all. They want to get out, and they enjoy it, and we pride ourselves in making the products that these people love to use, and that being said, we love to use them ourselves. So it's a cool, there's a lot worse things I could be doing. I can
absolutely
make toilet paper or spatulas or something like that, but this is a lot better deal for me.
Nice. Now when it came full circle and it came back around, and FeraDyne acquired Field Logic, how did that feel?
One, so my family always lived up here we live on the Minnesota side, just across the river. But I, for the most part, lived in Georgia. So I had gotten acclimated to living down there, and we were in North Georgia, so it wasn't like super hot, but I really liked it. And so the first thing was, I wish we could have just moved everything to Georgia, because then it would have been a lot better weather and whatever. But, it was strange because a lot of the employees that were here, there's one, Christy Voorhees, that she was very instrumental in our first when we first were growing Rage, she was like, between her and another guy that works with us named Chris Lynch, those two were extremely important in bringing that brand to what it was. And I was, when we first moved down to Georgia, there's a lot of times where, this particular one where, I'd worked hand in hand with all these employees, and they're not going to move to Georgia, right? So they stayed here and stayed with Field Logic, and it broke my heart. In me as the way that I am, I'm just like, oh, I hate to see that kind of stuff as you get into this corporate world. But the beauty of it was a lot of them, they found different homes within the Field Logic umbrella and of brands, and they were able to stay working. But when we came back up here, it was just awesome to be able to get to work with those people again that I had said goodbye to, 5 years ago or 6 years ago or whatever, and come back and work with them. And it helped give FeraDyne a more personable entry into this world of Field Logic, because I was here and they trusted me, and I wasn't this big corporate Godzilla that's going to come in and just change their whole lives, and it worked out.
Good.
In our office that we have is, it's a beautiful place. We're right on we're on the bay. On the other side of Park Point here is Lake Superior, but it's a pretty cool office setting, and they're good people, and it's good. I like it here, and I've lived here for a long time now, so I'm used to it. But the winter still sucks. I'm not gonna lie.
Now you're not a Georgia Bulldog fan, are you?
No, I became one to an extent, because if not, I would have gotten beaten down when I was down there. But that's such a powerful thing. And down south, the polarizing of, Alabama and Auburn and Georgia and, Georgia, to all these brands, and they're just so passionate about it, because they don't even really care about professional sports when you're down south. It's all about college, and frankly, college football. And
I grew up in Arkansas. I understand.
Yeah. Well, Georgia plays Arkansas this weekend coming
That's
up.
why I was gonna have to hang up if you were a Georgia fan.
But the two people that are down in the Arkansas office, they're just keyed up because Arkansas has finally got a halfway decent team this year. And my VP of sales, Chris, he's a diehard Bulldogs fan, and he's going to be pretty devastated if your Hogs beat the Dogs. We'll see.
No, I got a story for you, and I want to preference this. It was not Rage's fault, but this was probably about 2010. So Rage was, just now like the big thing. And I had talked to my dad. He shot like a 92 Hoyt. And I'm like, Dad, you got to try these new broadheads out, man. You got to try them out. And we went out hunting, and I didn't even think about it. I'm like, you're shooting a bow that shoots, 190 feet a second. Like that never crossed my mind. And so I'm like, Dad, you got to try these broadheads out. And sure enough, that night a shooter walks out, and he puts that broadhead on him, and that broadhead went in about that far. And he was so mad at me. He's like, you idiot. If I would have just stuck to my muzzies, this never would have happened. But now you can't get him to take Rages off his arrows because he bought a new bow. And now he just thinking lives and dies by them. But it was he gave me grief for like 6 months for talking him into trying that broadhead.
Yeah. And that's a good segue. The polarization of the love of those college football teams. It's the same thing with broadheads, and people they're so passionate. But now we own 5 broadhead companies, and so chances are, if they're shooting a broadhead, they're probably shooting one of our broadheads. But I just gave a seminar when I was at the convention here, a few months ago or a couple months ago, whatever it was, and my job isn't to try to make you buy one kind of broadhead. At the end of the day, we love to have passionate hunters and hunters that are out there, and there's different kinds of broadheads for different people, and there's fixed blade guys, there's mechanical guys, and it's just, I guarantee you, most of the employees there's a lot of them that we ended up moving up here from Georgia when we moved back to Superior. And every one of them that moved up here, they have never hunted with anything but a Rage since Rage bought Muzzy, and Michelle probably roll over to hear me say what I just said. The old owner of Muzzy, Michelle Eichler and Fred, but it's funny to see those guys shooting Rage and like, oh, I shot this one with a tri-pan. I'm like, what happened? You know, and I actually last year for the first time, you know, since we bought Muzzy, I helped. I'm not going to say I designed everything, but I'm kind of the one that helps in the design and how we bring products to market, and when we're going to bring to market and whatnot. And you know, the Trocar, which is a broadhead that we make, I we had two different choices that year in 2012, and I made the decision we're going to come with this Trocar broadhead, and it's ended up being just a huge seller for us ever since we came out with it. But I've never shot anything with it, so I figured last year, you know, I've never shot anything with a fixed blade since we started Rage, and I'm like, well, I'll try it. So I just shot nothing but fixed blades last year, and you know, the I killed the biggest 8-pointer of my life. It's up there in that corner, 156 or something with a busted brow. And I've killed I killed a lot of animals with it last year, and you know, in fact, I hunted Kentucky last week, and I sent fixed blades down there that I'm hunting with down there too. But it just, I'm not going to say I feel bad because I made all the Muzzy guys shoot Rage, but it helps me spread the wealth, you know. So it's kind of cool. They all work. I guess that's my point. You know, they all work. It's just a matter of what makes you confident, what you feel good at, what you feel good about shooting.
You know, you mentioned it there. I think confidence has a lot to do with it. If you know you're going to make a good shot and you feel it and you know that your equipment's going to do what it should, there's a lot to that.
Yep. And as long as your equipment does what it should, oftentimes if the equipment does what it should and the animal does what it should, it all comes together. But oftentimes the animal doesn't always do what you think it's going to do or what it should do when you shoot. All kinds of things happen. And
yeah.
I always tell everyone, you know, they're like, I hit him here, perfect. It's like, you really don't know where you hit that animal until you walk up to it and see where the hole is in it. Because I've had them do some crazy things when that bow goes off that you would never expect. And that's kind of the one thing that we always used to use as a sales tool when it came to Rage is, you know, you had this big, huge cut. If, you know, the animal doesn't do what it was supposed to do, or you didn't hit exactly where you wanted to, whatever the case may be, having that big, huge cut gives you just a little bit more advantage of hitting something vital than it does with a smaller, you know, cutting diameter fixed blade broadhead. And it flies like a field point. Just has all these attributes that helped it become what it is. And yeah, but it's confidence. And I do have a lot of confidence in Rage. I mean, I've killed about everything you can imagine. Yeah, it's a big part of it for sure.
So it's so this year are you back to Rage now?
I've only hunted. Actually, I hunted elk in New Mexico a couple weeks ago. New Mexico's first season, which is the first time I've ever done that, and it was hot and dry, and the bulls were not, until the last 2 days of season, they weren't really doing anything. They were moving at night, and but I hunted with a fixed blade there, and that particular TV show that I was hunting with, they're sponsored by Muzzy, so I shoot Muzzies when I'm on that one. And then when I went to Kentucky last week, I took fixed blades. But when I hunt my big whitetail hunts that I'll do here coming up, you know, I'll probably have these new tripans that we have, this Tripan NC that we came out with. That's probably what I'll have on my arrows. So
nice. So if you had to pick one of all the stuff, and I mean, you guys have everything: broadheads, arrows, targets. Just, I mean,
I was actually looking at all 20 of their brands just now.
I know, it's ridiculous.
Crazy.
If they don't have it, you might not need it. But if you had to pick one, if you had to go on there and say, okay, here's the one brand that I would do, which one would it be?
Rage.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty simple for me to pick that because it's kind of our flagship brand. But you know, you think about brands that people are passionate about, you know, and Teri's sitting here. Teri's our marketing director, and as you know, we sit here, and you know, I play hand in marketing as well. But you know, when it comes down to it, it's so easy to make people passionate about the broadhead. You know, when you think about a target, it's hard to make a target sexy, right? Like oh, it stops arrows, it does this, they have these features and whatnot, but people aren't like passionate about it. They aren't going to put a block target sticker on the back of their truck and drive around, or whatever. Now, if you give them a free block hat, they're going to wear it. But regardless, when they're sitting in a bar talking to their buddies, they're not going to sit there and argue about what target they shot. They're going to sit there and argue about what bow they shot, or what bow they shoot, or what broadhead they shoot. Those two things. And the Hoyt guys are going to argue with the Matthews guys, and the Bowtech guys are going to argue with the elite guys. But those Muzzy and Rage guys, they butt heads, and and then now we own both companies, so it's like, well, I don't care which one you buy, because they're both ours. So yeah,
that's great.
It's always been a thing. But yeah, Rage is definitely the flagship brand for sure.
Okay, excellent. And number two would be, if you had to pick a number two.
Carbon Express is another one that's a good brand, our arrow brand, and people are, they are pretty fussy about their arrows too. But we've got some really good arrows, and that company, that's one where we bought it. I was almost like, I told the employees that we were buying this company, and I kind of stood in this conference room and let everybody know. And that's a brand I've known since I started when I was in retail back in the mid 90s when I first started. I know I'm dating myself here, but when I first started in retail, I knew those brands, and I knew Lenny Resner that worked there, and he was always like the premier guy on carbon arrows. Like, he knew carbon arrows. And so when we bought that brand, like, I told our CEO as we're buying this, like, we're getting this guy when we buy this brand. Like, this is a huge deal. And I've been passionate about it since I've been forever. And, it's just, the pride that I felt when we bought that brand, I'm like, oh, this is awesome. And then, we got Lenny, and I got to know him. Now, he just retired this past year, but, we still reach out to him once in a while if we have a question or whatever. But yeah, I got a chance to travel to Korea with him and visit that factory. And, they even had a sign with his name on it above the door when you go in there for that was his lab. And yeah, I mean, it's a cool brand. So that's a good one. And, and then when you get into it, the next one would be Block. Block targets are, that's what started, in all reality, that's what started this whole thing was Block. And my old partner, Larry, who's since gone on to do all kinds of different things. But, Larry started that target in his garage, and I can't, everything that he's touched has turned to gold. And and he and I worked really close together for a lot of years, and he's a smart guy. And I'm not saying this because that he's ever going to listen to it and thinks I'm kissing his butt, but he is a smart guy, and that kind of got this whole ball rolling, and the ideas and the things, and that's what this comes down to, is the entrepreneurship and someone's willingness to take a chance to think that their idea is the best or is good enough to make a company out of it. And he's done it time and time again. And we kind of did it together when we started Rage, and I learned a lot from him, and throughout the years I've been able to grow up. But that Block brand has been something that, I sold them, and I was one of the first retail stores to ever sell them. And yeah, we brought in these targets that were $70 or, $60 for the small one, $100 for this one. And all the other targets were like $15-$20 at the time back in the 90s. I'm like, who was going to buy a $100 target? And lo and behold, we sold them, and we couldn't keep them in stock. And we still can't. We still can't keep them in stock. So,
you mentioned people making a fuss about broadheads and arrows, and it almost infuriates me when somebody doesn't make a big deal about their broadhead or arrow. They talk about their camo or their tree stand or the bow they're shooting. And I'm like, but at the end of the day, that broadhead and your arrow are the only thing that contacts the animal. So it doesn't matter what kind of camo you're wearing or what kind of bow you're shooting, what kind of tree saddle you're hunting out of. If you don't give thought and consideration to your broadhead and arrow, what are you doing? Because you could have the best hunt of your life, but that's the only thing that's going to connect to the animal at the end of the day. And I appreciate it when people make fusses about the broadheads, because if you don't truly believe the broadhead that you're shooting is the best broadhead out there, get a different broadhead.
Yeah.
I've seen some, I'm in Oregon, until very recently we couldn't use mechanicals here. And I'll tell you what, when they first got approved for use here,
Who was the one that did that, Teri?
John may have had something to do with that.
Oh yeah,
I had to go out there and speak to your game commission on the efficacy of mechanical broadheads, and so Teri and I put a deck together, and I went out there in front of them, and there's an archery shop, Wayne Endicott, that owns the bow rack. He called me. He's like, "You're the broadhead guy. We need you to come out here and speak to these people." And so I did it. What was it, 3 years ago? 4 years
You're
ago?
welcome, Jason.
Yeah.
There you go. You're welcome, Jason.
I'll give most of the credit to my PowerPoint. It was fortunate enough that John was there to do the speaking part, but I'm sure most credit was due to the PowerPoint. It was very beautiful.
Yeah, I was looking at some of this because all of a sudden it's a whole new avenue that you can look at, and you look at some of those, some of the videos that people have done on those rage broadheads, and you're like, man, I could put my arm through the hole in that deer. That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
So it's
and that's the one thing too that I always say that we changed is that, and that's one thing to think about too, as we are Pope and Young, is that, our goal is to get people out hunting with a bow, right? We want them archery hunting. Yes, there are records, there are all these different things, but at the end of the day, it comes down to, an aspirational thing. Like, yeah, when I was a kid, I wanted to shoot a Pope and Young animal so bad that I couldn't believe it. Where I grew up, they just weren't there. But, ultimately, if, people don't live in a place where they have it, an opportunity to harvest a Pope and Young animal, whitetail, or whatever the case may be, they're still out there hunting and doing things. And by using these broadheads, it changed the way that people took their pictures, right? Like they didn't have, it wasn't just a grip and grin of a, 160-inch deer. Look at this, they could have shot a doe and put a hole in it this big and been like, look at the hole. And that's what people were sharing on our social media sites. And it's not about how big this deer is, it's about the size of the hole that we put in this thing or whatever. And it allowed those people that maybe didn't have that chance to shoot the huge deer to be part of the whole hype, like, hey, I put a hole in deer like that too. And it allows them to be part of the group, you know what I mean? And it was a good deal.
Yeah, absolutely. It's, I saw some of those and it's impressive what they can do.
Yeah.
Jason, what broadheads are you shooting?
I don't know. I'd have to look in my bow case.
That means it's not a rage.
Gosh, Dylan, I just can't remember, but you're going to remember asking me that question for a long time. So, I'm a pretty loyal guy and I've got something that works for me. So
what do you shoot? Slick tricks?
No, it's the shuttle tees.
Oh yeah.
And so I don't know if I can say that online or on air, but yeah, I shoot them and I've had some good luck with them. I mean, where I'm not getting a hole like you get with those rage broadheads, but it's, when
they gotta be getting hard to find though, aren't they?
I haven't had an issue, but I've heard some things.
A big deal, I guess. So
yeah. So once again, I'm open, but and like I said, I've heard a lot of great stuff about yours. I mean, Muzzy's been around for forever, and those rage. I would imagine, is that the number one mechanical broadhead out there?
Number one broadhead ever sold. Yeah.
Okay. I was gonna say because when you hear about, like, a lot of people don't even call them mechanicals. They just call it's like a frisbee, oh, it's not a flying disc. It's with the mechanical broadhead, it's a rage.
Yeah.
Even if they're not shooting that particular brand, that's kind of what they say.
I worked at a bow shop through college, and they'd come in and say, well, what do you shoot? And I'd say, well, I shoot this or I shoot that. And they'd say, all right, cool, I want the rages. And I'm like, well, then why the crap you ask me? Like, it goes to credibility, Dylan. Yeah, no kidding.
you're just too young.
Yeah, no kidding.
So I was in a store one time. It was a Sportsman's Warehouse, and I had just gotten back from Africa, and at the time I took a rifle over there, and I had some 19-year-old kid who I don't know if he'd ever even killed a deer, and he was trying to tell me about some brand of rifle, and I'm like, okay, thank you, I appreciate it. So
No, I had I posted a video of my wife shooting her bow, and some kid commented on it and said, "Well, you need to upgrade her from a whisker biscuit." And I'm like, "Well, first off, she just started shooting a bow like a month ago, so I want her to shoot a whisker biscuit." And I'm like, secondly, I go to your page and I don't see one dead animal on your page. Like, so why are you telling me what to upgrade my wife to?
Yeah.
And I was like, just so you know, buddy, I still shoot a whisker biscuit, and I just switched back to a whisker biscuit, and I shot 6 animals with it last year, and it worked just fine. And he didn't say anything back, but I'm like, man, you sure
Yeah,
give me all the advice there.
I sold whisker biscuits when they first came out. I knew the guys that started it, and I killed all kinds of stuff with a whisker biscuit. It's a good rest.
Well, I'll tell you, I actually, so for probably 10 years, I shot a drop away, and I was having a phone call with David Blanton one time, and we got on the topic of rest, and he's a big believer in whisker biscuits, and nobody's going to argue with David Blanton. And so he said, well, I'll tell you what. He said, you buy a whisker biscuit and hunt with it for 1 year. And if you have any issues, I'll buy you a new drop away. And so I'm like, okay. So I went to a whisker biscuit. That was that was for the 2020 season. And so I hunted all with it 2020, and that's what I'm still shooting. I mean, never had a problem with it whatsoever. And thought I would have a problem with tuning it with a 4-fletch, and tuned perfectly. So that's what I'm still shooting.
Yeah, foolproof.
Yeah.
Again, back to Jason's comment on confidence, and being confident in your stuff. And, I'm not going to sit here and say I've gotten an opportunity to shoot lots of different things. And,
yeah, you got some giants behind you.
Yeah, there's a big bear there somewhere. If I get my chair to roll. Yeah, it's a big,
there it is,
grizzly. But the less things you have to think about, the better. And the whisker biscuit gives you that confidence where you don't have to worry about something happening because it's there, it's going to work. And when you're, like I always tell everyone, the hardest part of archery, in my opinion, is knowing when to draw your bow and drawing your bow. Like, that's what makes archery a challenge. Is you have to know when the right time to draw that bow is, and if you screw it up, it's over. But being able to do that, and the less things you have to think about when you're doing that, the better. And that's what I've always kind of thought about when it comes to
and one thing that I've found about the whisker biscuit is it's really one of the only rests. It's not the only rest, but it's one of the only rests that I can have 2 set up perfectly tuned to my bow and have the other one in my pack. And if anything happens to that rest, I just bolt it on. I don't have to tie into my string. I don't have to tie into my limb. I just bolt it on, and I know I'm ready to go. And so that was one huge benefit for me, is like, if something happens in the field, you unscrew it and bolt the other one on, and you're ready to go.
Yep.
Yeah. So what?
Yeah, I've gotten burned by some rests over the years, and on some big time hunts, but yeah, no, there's all kinds of good products, and you think about it, and the time that I've spent in the archery industry, I've seen a lot of different things come and go, and it's cool to see some of the ones that really blossomed, and that was one of them. And those guys that started were great guys too. They're engineers, true and true, and that started with the landing gear, the threaded screws that push the landing gear up and down. That was a brush that was used to clean that landing gear, the dust and stuff off of there as it went up. Yeah.
Huh.
So I probably just gave away some industry secret that I wasn't supposed to say, but that's what it was.
So so here's the question: you guys carry all kinds of stuff, but is there something that you're like, man, I wish I had those? I wish I had, maybe not a specific brand, but like some segment. I mean, I'm trying to think of what you guys don't have for archery, but is there something?
There's little widgets that I like to use that we don't own, and there's a lot of cool little products that I'm not going to say I've helped them, but some of them I have. But there's a lot of cool brands that I like that we don't own. Nose Jammer is one that I'm passionate about that works really good. Those guys they're great guys that work there, and it's one of those things that when I first started using it, now it's like one of my favorite smells. I spray it in my truck and my office, everywhere you go. my life, it smells like nose jammer because I like the smell of it, and it works. It's one of those things, and that's one that I'm passionate about. But it's just, there's all different kinds of things that are out there that I like, widget type stuff, because I'm a widget kind of guy, and I have trinkets and things like like the Cirrus wind indicator, for example. Like, that's a great product that works really well. And anytime I take it out, somebody hasn't seen it, they're like, "Oh my, that's the coolest thing I've ever seen." It's like, well, been around for a few years, but it's a cool item. And
if I had my way, we would own a hand warmer company.
A hand warmer.
Oh, I guarantee you, she's got them right now in her pockets or somewhere, because
I've got them in Texas in June. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter where I am. I've got them with me. And if we acquired a hand warmer company, I could die a happy woman. It would be the greatest day of my life.
So Teri, are you a like a shake hand warmer, or are you a battery powered hand warmer, or all of the above?
For convenience, I always have the shake ones with me. But that being said, I'm probably one of the few people that packs a power strip in my hunting bag, because I've got socks and a vest and all of the other rechargeable items that I need to keep rolling when I'm on a hunt.
Jason loves heated gear.
Years ago, I brought some of that stuff. I think I stopped because it was like 4 below, and I was going to Montana on a goose hunt. And so I'm like, I don't have 4 below gear. So I stopped at Cabela's and bought like some heated battery powered gloves, and I think one other thing. And I showed up, and people clowned me like crazy, because they're just like, "Oh, what a pansy. I can't believe you need heated gloves." Well, I mean, it's -4 and you need something. And it was funny because the next year I show up, and probably a third of the people had heated gloves. And then the little layout pads, the battery powered layout pads were there, and I had one of those. And because the year before, one other guy had one, and man, he was warm, and I was freezing. My hands were warm, but everything else was cold. And so
nothing wrong with being comfortable.
No, not at all. And if that makes me a pansy, then you know what? I'm the pansy over here smiling in a long sleeve, quarter zip and a vest, while you're over there in bibs, 7 coats, shivering.
I actually did have a hunt in Texas a couple of years ago in June, and I was using hand warmers on the morning sits, and I caught a little flack for that. But later that same year, I went to a hunt in South Dakota that was owned by the same outfitter, and the cook that was working there had a bag on the counter, and when I came in, he had said, "Miss Teri, that bag is for you." And it was completely full of hand and body warmers.
Nice.
And he just laughed, and he said, "If you need those in Texas in June, you're definitely going to need them here in South Dakota in October." So yeah. That's what I would love to see FeraDyne acquire, some sort of warming.
All right.
I don't care what kind. It would be great.
Well, everybody, you heard it here first. So that's so. Yeah. Any breaking news or of things you guys have coming up?
No, the thing that I'll say, this past year has been a challenge for most companies in the outdoor industry, just for the simple fact of the huge influx of participation that we saw last year, coming out of the pandemic, and it created this huge surge in demand that we're still trying to catch up from to this point right now. I mean, it's stayed strong for an entire year, frankly. And I think this time last year, it would have been the first week I was on an elk hunt in Colorado, and I ended up getting COVID. Nothing wrong with the outfit or anything like that. There's 3 of us that roomed together, ended up getting COVID, and we all came back, and so I was able to hunt a lot because I wasn't really sick when I got it, and I just had no taste and smell, and that's when I decided I was going to shoot fixed blades. But we starting about then.
There's a whole marketing thing there for you, Teri. If you lose your sense of taste and smell, that's when you switch to a fixed blade.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense.
I think that's
Yeah.
a good idea.
Yeah, it's perfect. But no, like the point is, like, I remember coming out of it last year when and then things really started to pick up, and it just carried throughout the whole year. And you know, we have spent the past year not so much focused on like new product development or, you know, any of the things that we normally would. We're really focused on producing, shipping, and doing the things that we need to do on time of the products that we have. Now, we do have a few new product things that we'll bring to market in 2022, but you know, nothing that's going to be earth shattering as we go into the next year. Just mainly trying to keep our heads above water and making sure we can, you know, do the things that we do really well, because, you know, as every other manufacturing outdoor industry would tell you, like, it's been a challenge to be good at what we do, because you know, trying to find employees to build the products, the supply chain's been so tough to work with. You know, everything takes 3 times longer to get here than it should, and costs have gone through the roof, and, you know, just all different kinds of things. We just got to get all that stuff figured out, and then we'll kind of reset as we go into 22. But we do have some new things, but there really isn't anything groundbreaking to talk about. You know, a lot of times we fill niches, or we do some little improvements to different products that we already have, and we did a little bit more of that as we go into next year. So yeah.
Good. And how is with the supply chain and logistics and all that from COVID? I know it's hit everybody. I mean, I ordered a bow in January and it got here at the end of August, literally 3 days before I was leaving for an antelope hunt. And fortunately, a guy here helped me set it up and get it ready. But where are you guys at in that process? Are you starting to catch up to where now you're anticipating, hey, it's going to take 3 times longer? So, okay.
Yep. We have, where we would generally have ordered, you know, less quantities, for example, more frequent orders of less quantities. We're trying to order big lots of, you know, because we know it's going to take a lot longer. We're trying to order big lots that'll carry us through till the next big lot gets there, instead of those shorter, you know, more frequent shipments. And you know, luckily the things with the government have kind of changed when it comes to the employees and keeping people working. And so we've gotten a lot better at hiring and retaining employees and doing that, and then being able to make sure that our supply chain keeps a good flow of product as we go through. And then we have issues that are out of our control. For example, you know, these hurricanes that just hit the southeast a few weeks ago, you know, affected one of our suppliers in the chemical business that we use to make our Glendale buck, shooter buck, the polyfusion targets, like our block 6x6, or the infinity targets, those types of things that are all that molded foam. That particular vendor, they got pounded in Texas, where the freeze hit early this spring. So that impacted our shipments of that stuff for most of the summer. Then they got caught back up, and bam, they get hit with a hurricane. Now they shut it off again. So as those employees, you know, that work in that department, we don't have any material to make that stuff. We ship them into other areas, and it allows us to increase the output in those other areas until we can start getting that material again, and then move them back. And so it works out. We're able to flex people and move them around and do whatever. But yeah, the supply chain is, you know, it's a challenge because of the COVID situation, but it's also a challenge because of, you know, things that are out of our control. You know, like, I can't control a hurricane that does this, and we just have to roll with the punches. So
yeah. So overall, sitting about where you want to be, though. I mean, everything considering.
Yep. Yeah, we're having a great year. You know, we had the biggest month that we've ever had on volume of production. So the output of the materials and the things that we made, plus our top line sales last month, was the biggest month that we've ever had in the history of the company. So it's good. Yeah.
You know, hey, Dylan, do you ever think about asking me what release I shoot?
I shoot a True Fire.
You know, I do, man. I don't think I could live without the fold back feature.
Oh man, you're right.
That's the one thing I can't do without.
Yeah, that is a cool feature. The fold back and the track.
I've got a question for you, John.
Yeah.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I was just saying those are the two features that really set True Fire apart, is the fold back.
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
Grab tab.
So being a trinket guy and being somebody who represents so many brands, so many different products, what's one product that you fell in love with and then like somebody pulled it off the market and you're like, no, that was like one of my favorite products?
We've done that to ourselves.
Yeah, we've done it
Bet
to
you
ourselves a lot. Now keep them. There's a couple of boxes of one of those sitting down here on the floor behind us, and so, but yeah, gosh, I'm trying to think of something that I loved, that's not around anymore. God, I don't know. There's been so many things I can't even.
Dylan, once he thinks of it, he's gonna fixate on it for the next 2 weeks, and I'm going to kill you.
Then I'm gonna yeah. There's a couple things
I
like
figured
that.
you had
we deal with
more
it all
than
the time.
one.
What's that?
I figured you had more than one.
No, I do have a lot of them, but I'm thinking of, we have to deal with it all the time. If we discontinue broadheads or a particular release or whatever, the complaining that ensues after we do it, and the phone calls and the emails and the chats, and how could you do this? Why would you do this? And so I know, because we have to deal with it all the time. But yeah, I'm just trying to think of any specific thing that there's tons of calls, like the best. There's one, the Purple Heart box call that Primos used to make. I mean, I used to kill it. That was my favorite box call, and you can't buy it anymore. But there's lots of different things that I can think of that that over the years I've used. But I've done so many different things, like, and in all reality, one good example of something like this. Our PR guy, his name's Tim Kent, and he sent me a text the other day, and he's like, "You're not going to believe this," and he goes, "You're the only person that would appreciate this." And it was in the New York Outdoor News paper thing that they have in New York, and it was a picture from that, and it was a company that was launching a string tracker. So the first thing that Eastman Outdoors, when it used to be called Game Tracker, came out with was their Game Tracker back in the early 80s. And it was a spindle tube that went in the stabilizer hole with a string that would attach to the little barb that went behind your broadhead. And when you shot, that little barb would stick in the skin, and the deer would run off with this string, and you would just follow the string to the deer. And that's what they started their business with. And this company is relaunching it and had it in that New York Outdoor News. So it's like, how, that's 40, whatever, well, it's over 40-year-old technology, and these people are launching it as this new thing again. And you're like, I don't even think it's legal, frankly. But regardless, it's just one of those things that, what's old is new again. And in all reality, if there are things that I've liked in the archery side of the business, chances are
he buys them.
We've made it, I've taken that thing and we've made it and tweaked it and made it into something else. And it's something that you've seen that we already have,
Can you imagine rolling into Dick's Sporting Goods, Jason, and buying a new product and then liking it and being like, well, we'll just buy the company?
You know what? Yeah, I'll shoot muzzies this weekend.
I'm just going to own it.
Let's go buy them. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was in a Cabela's with the president and CEO of ScentLock, and we had him on the show not so long ago, and we were looking at some of their camo. He's like, I want to go see what their stock looks like. This was right during COVID. So I was like, I want to see how they are on stock. And so we walked back there and we're looking at camo, and this worker walks up. He's like, can I help you guys find something? And this guy, and he was like, yeah, I really wanted to learn more about the ScentLock stuff. And he walks around the corner, and I say, what are the chances you could talk this guy into giving you free camo because you're the CEO of ScentLock? And he's like, probably slim to none. and so he walks back around, and I'm like, hey, this guy actually is the president and CEO of ScentLock. We're on a hunt. He tore a jacket, and he's like, I don't think I can do that. And I'm like, well, okay.
Nice.
That's so have you ever gone to a store and had people be like, hey, wait, don't you own them?
No, it's like people in our industry, they don't really, you'd think of, we think of someone like a Michael Waddell, for example, that, you and I we all know him very well. Teri knows him, but if he walks into Target, people aren't going to know who he is. But to us, we know who he is. It's not like Brad Pitt, or something like that. But in our industry, the only time someone ever says something is if I'm wearing a piece of branded apparel. Like if I have a Rage vest on or a Rage hat, they're like, hey, I hate those broadheads, or hey, I like them, and it starts a conversation. And it's oftentimes, I spend a lot of time in the airport, and that's when I get the most comments. Or when I used to live in Georgia, if I was wearing a Georgia Bulldog shirt or whatever shirt, that's the only other time I would get someone stop me and say, they'd say, all right, go Dogs, or, whatever. But it's the same thing. If I have branded apparel, they'll say something. But, there are times when I'm in a retail store where, whomever I'm with, it could be one of my buddies that isn't in the industry. Someone will say, we'll be standing there and hear someone talk, and they'll be like, hey, this is the guy that runs that business or whatever. And they'll look at me like, really? There's times like that, but no, pretty much I'm just a regular dude. And unless I'm wearing something that pisses people off.
Is it a surreal feeling going into a sporting goods store and owning
an aisle? Yeah, you own an aisle.
Owning 4 aisles of products being sold.
Yeah, we do have that. There's a lot of that. There was a time, there was a shop that we went into, and they were selling counterfeit stuff. And so my CEO, myself, and my VP of sales were down for a meeting, and we took all of our branded stuff off and just put on regular t-shirts that we had that were just nothing. And we walked into that store to just see if those things were in there because we had got rumored of it or whatever. And before, as we were walking out to the truck, the owner was looking at my LinkedIn profile, because it's like, this person viewed your profile. So he knew who I was when I was in his store, because we were nosing around this counterfeit stuff, and he knew who I was. But that's the only time someone's ever been like, hey, but he didn't say he knew me. He just was looking at my LinkedIn profile to see if it was me.
Did you ever have people that just start bad mouthing? They don't know who you are. They start bad mouthing your gear. Oh, Rage sucks. This, that.
All the time.
And they're like, yeah, I know. I started it.
Yeah. No, it happens. That happens some, or, they'll be talking about some other thing that they really like that isn't a brand that I own. And then they feel guilty, like a shuttle T-lock.
Oh,
Dylan.
Dylan, Dylan, I'm going to pay for that for years. And so are you. So,
hey, I'll buy you a pack of Rage and send them to you.
I'll tell you.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll need the 24 pack. You've seen me shoot.
Yeah.
So,
all right.
No, it's that happened to me at convention. So I'm really careful of who I say anything bad to, because I was looking at I don't know if you heard that story, but I was talking to Brian Butcher and I didn't know it. And he shot that just weird looking, it's 320 some inches, but it's just a weird looking buck. And he said something about it. And I almost said, something, really? You picked that one? And thank goodness I didn't say anything negative to him, but great guy. We had him and his buddies on it. We talked about that.
Oh yeah. No, one of my old employees, so we were at a show in Pennsylvania for one of our distributors called the Kinsey Show. And that particular year I'd gone to Australia, but I'd also shot a black bear in like northern Manitoba, and I shot it for Babe Winkleman's TV show. And I was shooting a Matthews bow that they had made for me that had like 104-pound limbs, and I had been shooting it all summer to go on this Australia hunt. So I'm like, well, I'll just take it on this bear hunt. Well, I was hunting in a tripod, and I was wearing like a head net thing and had to like here on my face, and I was wearing Lost camo, which was Matthews camo at the time, and I shot this bear, and I took this thing down, and I had it like around my face, and I just looked like a complete idiot. I was like, yes. And they had put this particular video of me shooting this bear in this loop video. And so I was standing behind the table, and the video's playing, and this customer walks up, and one of my employees was out on the floor, and they're watching this video, and my employee's like, man, is that guy just a complete loser? And the customer's like, he really is. And I'm standing right there on the other side of the table. Oh, I laughed so hard. Jim's like, that guy is a complete loser. And the customer's like, oh, man, he really is.
Did you ever break it to him?
What? Yeah, oh yeah. Jim's like, oh, that's, by the way, as he's walking away, he's going, oh, that's him. And the guy's like, oh, I feel terrible. I'm like, no, I said, I can't stop laughing. Oh, but yeah, that's the kind of respect my employees generally give me. See.
Yeah. Well, mine just put me right on the hook, right on, throw me right under the bus.
So, Jason, the next time we give you a web code for your newsletter, you could use that yourself too,
I think I have to use it to get him some, actually.
Yeah, I think Dylan will be ordering me some Rage broadheads here shortly.
Certainly will.
Yeah.
That sounds great.
It's no, and I've seen them, and I look at it once again, creature of habit. I'm like, hey, I've got something that works. I just kind of stick with it. But I did. When they opened them up here, I started researching it, and I'm like, man, some of those holes are just ridiculous. And so it's it probably needs to happen. But
yeah, it's the best. We always say it's the best bad hit broadhead that's ever been made, and anything that gives you a little bit of advantage. Scent lock's a prime example. I take heat. There's my buddy that's an outfitter, and he's like, the elk's gonna smell you. I'm like, if scent lock helps me and gives me just a little bit of an advantage and does whatever, it's worth it to me.
Yeah.
There's things like that. Same thing with like a nose jam or whatever. Like, yep, if that elk is straight downwind, he's probably going to smell me. But if this gives me just a little bit of advantage on
like 10 degrees.
I'm gonna use every widget I can to give me that advantage on anything.
That's I wear that hex clothing sometimes because for the same thing, because I was sitting in a ground blind. I didn't move and I didn't make a sound, and they just knew I was there. And so then next time in there I had that on, and it was a little bit different. You know what? Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but if it's that little bit of an edge, I want it. Yeah. So those Rage I should probably look at, because I'm
exactly.
The other day we were on the Okayest Hunter podcast, Dylan and I were, and I felt pretty close to home right there. So that's the bad hit broadhead. So I've just gotten lucky this year with some good hits.
Yeah, they asked me and Jason, they said, what are some okayest moments you've had in the field? And I'm like, well, it's easier for me to think of those than good moments I've had in the field.
Yeah. You mean like this week or yeah.
Yeah.
So well, John, here's a question we ask every guest, and I'm anxious to hear your answer here because you're around so many different things. How many SKUs do you guys have? Do you know?
We just got asked that question on the last Zoom call that we were on where my camera wasn't working either. And I think it's probably 15,000, 12,000. Yeah.
Okay.
Something like that.
Now, we'll just go greater than 10,000 SKUs.
Yeah.
So from the greater than 10,000, that may be a record for us, Dylan.
Well, we had Lancaster on, so I don't know if they might be.
Yeah. Boy,
they got a lot of.
They're in the same category though. I know that.
Yeah. So anyway, so when you're out in the field, if you're picking one thing to take with you, maybe a non-traditional type of item, so it can't be like a knife or binoculars or something, but what is the one thing you're taking with you?
Ooh, I know the answer to that one for me.
Okay. I know. Yeah. Everybody knows that one, Teri.
Oatmeal cream pies.
Oh, I thought you were going hand warmers.
I was going to go I'd have lost the buck for sure on that.
The hand warmers are a part of my daily use. So that's a given. But on a hunting trip, it's oatmeal cream pies.
Listen, I'm good at giving food advice. Next time you're out there, take those hand warmers and put each hand warmer on the side of an oatmeal cream pie and let it get a little warm and then eat it.
Mm-hmm.
I could do that. I don't know if I have the patience though. When I'm ready for that cream pie, the Little Debbie's are the way to go.
Dylan, I'm just wondering, like she's talking about what oatmeal something cookies. I wonder if she's ever had an Uncrustable out in the field.
Oh yeah, she has. She brings them.
Okay, so she apparently has.
But
has
I don't want to be judged, but my backpack is usually 3/4 of the way full of snacks.
The one thing I've taught, especially my employees that work with me, don't keep them in the crinkly package that they come in. Put them in a different type of package, because that is the worst. Next to Velcro, nothing in hunting should have Velcro, in my opinion, and you should never take crinkly wrappered anything, whether it be an Uncrustable, oatmeal cream pie, a Nature Valley granola bar, it should be in some other type of packaging so it's not crinkly. But
Hey, we're big
to answer
fans of the
your question,
Uncrustables.
for me, it would be, I'm a wind Nazi, so I have to have a puffer of some sort, like no matter what I'm doing. I've got to have a puffer. I'm big on, obviously I'm, puffer, rangefinder. You said non-traditional, I can't hunt without binoculars. I cannot hunt without binoculars. But a puffer. But if there's something that comes with me, obviously my phone, the battery pack, and a cable, those three are imperative. And really it's just water. So, I don't have, if it's early season, a thermocell, got to have a thermocell all the time. But
what's a thermocell?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm from Oregon. We don't have bugs here.
Oh. Where Dylan grew up, he's got them.
Oh yeah,
saddle them down there.
I've been in Arkansas.
Oh, yeah.
They'll carry you away.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
I've been on a few early season hunts in places down in the South, and man, that's you don't have a thermocell or some bug spray, you're in for a miserable day.
Yep, for sure.
So,
but
all right,
yep, and then the other thing I'd say, I hunt from a tree stand a lot. A 3-arm real tree bow holder, the 3-arm. That's the most. I have to have a 3-arm one, so my bow is out there. That's an important thing for me too.
Nice. That's twice this week we've heard that one.
The 3-arm.
The bow holder. Yeah. So that's I was in a tree stand last week, and I was just glad I had like a little screw in hook.
Who was the other one,
yeah.
Jason? Who said the other one?
Was John from Bowhunter Planet.
Oh, Dave from Bowhunter Planet.
Oh, Dave. Dave.
He pulled one out and had it with him.
He did.
Like,
he actually had one with
now.
him in the truck with him.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that.
The other cool thing that came out last year, Matthews came out with it. If you ever hunt in a ground blind or on the ground, is the engaged limb legs for Matthews. If you shoot a Matthews bow and you don't have those, you might as well just throw in the towel. The engaged limb legs are just shooting your bow in the range or doing whatever. Like, they're the best thing. And I know you guys are for a different bow brand, but that one that was when they came out with that thing. I was like, oh man, this thing is awesome. You can shoot with it on everything.
If they have a cool bow stand like that, maybe we should let Matthews in.
Yeah.
What do you think, Don?
We actually, I actually had some good conversations with Matthews, and our missions lined up. Oh, that's awesome.
And then you can just sit your bow, and it just sits there on it. You can shoot with it on everything. But
that's very cool.
That is cool.
I see the recurve in the background too. That caught my eye.
My Hoyt.
That caught my eye.
That's Dylan's a trad guy now. We've lost him.
Well, you can't say that. I've only shot one deer with it.
So
somebody asked me, they said, "So are you going full trad now?" And I said, no, I'm going with my compound next week.
Yeah. So, well, guys, Teri, John, really appreciate you guys, all you do for Pope and Young. You've been great supporters. I've been here a little over 3 years, and like I said, everything that we've ever come to you with, you guys have supported wholeheartedly. We really appreciate it. We appreciate you coming to convention and being part of our celebration for 60th anniversary. And thanks again for spending some time with us here today. We had a great time visiting with you, and thank you so much for everything you do for PNY.
Yep, and thank you guys for being part of PNY too. It's been something I've been part of for a long time. Teri's, since, and I told her when we first started, like when she first started getting into this, I'm like, you got to be a lifetime member. So she signed up, and she even signed her daughter up here a couple of weeks ago. So
get one.
We appreciate it. We appreciate the organization, and we'll do anything we can to help, because it's something that I'm passionate about personally, and I'm just proud to be in the industry, and I'm proud to be a part of all the things that I'm a part of. So it just means a lot to me to be part of this, because it was something that I aspired since I was a little kid. So it's cool deal.
Excellent. Well, once again, we appreciate it. It's a great partnership, and anything we can do for you, you just let us know anytime.
Will do.
So,
Thank you.
and Teri, did you get those glasses? Did they ever show up?
I did get them. Yes. Thank you.
Okay. All right. And I know your guys' gear, your other gear is on the way too. Your Pope and Young
Perfect.
jackets. So anyway, thanks so much. Appreciate you spending some time with us and have a great day.
All right. Thank you.